Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's exciting panel on the importance of biodiversity conservation and investing in nature-based solutions. As we continue to face the impacts of climate change, deforestation, and loss of biodiversity, it has become increasingly clear that we cannot rely solely on technology and human ingenuity to solve these complex challenges. We must look to the natural world for inspiration and solutions. Natural-based solutions encompass a wide range of strategies that harness the power of ecosystems to address pressing environmental issues. In today's panel discussion, we have Dr. Daniel Mateos Molina, who is the head of the Marine Conservation Team and a scientist at Emirates Nature WWF. He's also the Deputy Project Manager of the flagship Nature-Based Solutions Project at Emirates Nature WWF, which is the local flagship charity that works in association with the Global Conservation Organization, WWF. We also have Dr. Simon Walmsley, the Marine Chief Advisor at WWF UK. He earned his PhD at Hull University in marine biomonitoring and ecotoxicology, and also worked extensively in salt marsh ecology. Dr. Simon has been with WWF for over 24 years and has worked on many different things, including blue carbon and ocean climate nexus. Last but not least, we have Meitha El-Hamli. As the section head of the Marine Biodiversity Assessment and Conservation Team at the Environment Agency Abu Dhabi, Meitha is deeply involved in marine conservation. Her expertise span across various projects related to monitoring and preserving crucial marine ecosystems such as mangroves, corals, and seagrass beds. She leads and manages a team, which I'm lucky to be a part of, that oversees habitat restoration initiatives that integrate technology and innovation. Furthermore, she has played a pivotal role in leading Abu Dhabi's rescue and rehabilitation and release program for marine wildlife. We're going to move on to our questions for today. So my first question is for Dr. Daniel Mateos. Yeah, you get the first one. What is the importance of using a seascape approach to understand the real natural capital? And why do we need to identify suitable areas to implement nature-based solutions?
Well, thank you so much. Regarding the question, I think we are actually seeing a lot of trending about, we're talking about the value of ecosystem services, blue carbon habitats. From the Emirates Nature WWF, it doesn't exist another way to just think about a seascape approach. So where the different habitats are connected. We need to do the interpretation that there is no only one habitat, or mangroves or seagrasses, all of them are connected. We have now science evidence, the scientific evidence that those habitats works better together. For example, there is scientific papers that they say that mangrove and seagrasses are twice more efficient if they are closer than 500 meters. So we are now understand a little bit more about the importance of salt marshes that I think Dr. Simon will talk later, working together with the mangroves. I mean, we are clear that this is the approach that we need to follow, this escape approach, and this is what we are implementing now in two sites, working collaboratively with EAD and other partners. HSBC is the founder, that we want to understand how these habitats are connected, but also we want to do restoration and management based on this information. And this is the key. The key is just make sure that we are clearly understand how they work together to restore the areas that they can provide more services. It's not about doing one action, individual action in one place that we don't know how they work. It's just we are going to implement restoration in one place where this is going to increment the services that this ecosystem is going to provide, as well as even increment the services that the whole seascape can provide.
So basically, it's a more holistic approach.
It's a holistic approach to make sure that holistically this ecosystem can provide and enhance ecosystem services. Yes.
That's very important work, and I think we need more projects based on nature, inspired by nature, I guess. My next question is for you, Dr. Simon. Why is it important to consider an ecosystem holistic approach to protection, conservation, and restoration of blue carbon habitats in combating climate change?
Thank you, and maybe you'll allow me to give you some examples of the work that we're doing that hopefully highlights this, but thank you for the invitation to the panel. But just let me start with an introduction. So I'll kick off with salt marsh and then talk a little bit about the wider ranging work we're doing, but just let me make a point up front. So even though the communication of blue forest habitats, or blue carbon habitats, is around blue carbon, obviously, we know that these habitats bury carbon more efficiently than their terrestrial counterparts. It's more than that. Danny's mentioned it already. It's much more than that. It's about the stack services, the co-benefits, the cumulative values of these habitats. But what I would say is that carbon really opens the door. It's a recognised service. The science is improving, of course, and there's a global model being developed for financing, of course. So we need to take all this momentum and look at the full services of these habitats, the biodiversity services, the pollution remediation services, flood risk. And we frame this in something called the triple challenge, which is about benefiting people, biodiversity and climate. And that's what these habitats should do. And we need to maximise the triple challenge value in everything that we do. And we have a big opportunity. Bringing together NDCs, MBSAPs and SDGs is a really good opportunity to kind of live some of these things. Just moving on to salt marsh. We know that salt marsh is incredibly valuable. In the UK, we do a lot of work on salt marsh. The benefits salt marsh produces, as well as the carbon service, are things like natural flood protection, water quality, pollution control, and fisheries habitat. I'll just give you a very quick snapshot of the work that we're doing. We've helped set up a salt marsh research platform in the northwest of England. And this will look at the full carbon cycle in a salt marsh habitat, the first to do that in the UK. And it'll look at exchange between atmosphere and landscape, seascape, and of course lateral flows to the sea, which is incredibly important. We've also helped to establish a monitoring network which investigates the sea level rise impacts on these habitats. And again, that's a holistic ecosystem approach to maximising these ecosystem services and also allowing for adaptation. And we're also working on nutrient values, flood risk, and we're getting better data to look at interventions which maximise all these ecosystems, goods and services. I'll give you an example. So if you look at salt marsh creation, if you look at creek design, so often when you look at salt marsh, you have a main channel and then many creeks. If you try and mimic nature and make those creeks many, you make them bendy, for want of a better terminology, you can maximise the ecosystem's goods and services because you increase accretion, which means you increase carbon burial, you can increase nutrient sequestration, and it's also better for wildlife, mixed swards, it's better for fish nurserying, and it's also better for things like bird life. And of course, flood risk and climate mitigation, adaptation, sorry. We're also doing some work with a large retailer in the UK called Tesco, who's obviously interested in fish. And we're looking at scenarios of restoration and the economic values of commercial fish habitats. Just moving on to some wider work that we're doing. We're part of a consortium that's done some research in the North Sea, which is looking at carbon values in and out of MPAs and in habitats like kelp forest, salt marsh, seagrass, biogenic reefs, sediment and phytoplankton. And we're estimating how much carbon all these can store. I'll just give you a quick snapshot of the findings. In the top 10 centimetres of the North Sea, this is the top 10 centimetres only, the carbon storage is equivalent to 20% of the whole of UK forests. And these sediments are 10 to 100 metres deep, and they often have underlying peat, which is a massive carbon store, so it's obviously underestimated. 98% of organic carbon is stored in sediments in the North Sea, so we have to be careful about sediment disturbance. And the MPA network in the North Sea contains 53% of the organic carbon. So in view of all this, we recommend a whole site approach to the creation and management of MPAs. It goes beyond improving the management of existing protected areas, and it goes beyond feature-based protection. We must widen this to a whole-scape approach to protect ecosystem function. That's the important word, ecosystem function and integrity. And that, of course, includes connectivity, which Danny mentioned. We need to protect key areas for blue carbon, and of course, the carbon is an ecosystem function in itself and could be an indicator of functionality. But despite all these benefits, some of these habitats that we're talking about are some of the most threatened on Earth. So I'll finish here and hopefully line this up very well for you. So research regarding the interconnected nature of these ecosystems and the services they provide suggests an urgent need to consider this holistic approach to conserving and restoring blue forest seascapes globally. And I'll finish there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Simon. That's a lot to take in and very interesting facts. And I think it's very inspiring to have like a snapshot of your life's work. But I think we can all look at your work and see that we can also try to implement that in other areas in our field as well. And I can see that we can do the same things here as well. And I think we've started to do some of these approaches. I liked how you said that we should mimic nature to maximize the benefits. And I think I will live by that, starting from today.
Not easy to mimic Mother Nature, though.
Yeah, we can never reach that. So my last question is for Meitha. What is Abu Dhabi doing when it comes to nature-based solutions, and why is the Environment Agency keen in implementing and running nature-based solutions?
Thank you, Simon, for your answer. He basically answered my question. But I think I'll take a step back first and just explain what nature-based solutions are. So nature-based solutions is looking at nature and the ecosystem services that we benefit from the nature and use them in our advantage as a solution for climate change. A lot of us have been, I think, discussing blue carbon, not only in this panel, but in different panels. And carbon sequestration is not the only service we benefit from these habitats, especially when it comes to climate change. These habitats are quite important when it comes to food security. They're important for example, low-lying islands. They need these habitats as buffers and protection from what is coming because of the changes that are happening because of climate change. So I'll come back to Abu Dhabi. I think we have a good relationship with nature. It's a very long relationship. It started way before the Union. Our founding father, Sheikh Zayed, has embedded in us the importance of nature because this is the land our forefathers survived on, despite it being a barren desert, or what people would think is a barren desert. But the biodiversity we had here was the reason they were able to survive. And that was embedded in us way back. And this is why today we are running and leading the region when it comes to nature-based solutions. We do not only create habitats, Dr. Simon. An important part of nature-based solutions is conservation. And that's what we're doing here. And I will talk about the marine nature-based solutions we are looking at. For example, when it comes to looking at things holistically, that is what we did when we created protected areas in Abu Dhabi. We have 6 marine protected areas in Abu Dhabi, and all of them were built around data that was collected over years. For example, we have the Marawah Marine Biosphere Reserve. This is an example of how holistic protection needs to be done. We have some of the best coral reefs in Abu Dhabi within that protected area. We have, right next to that coral reef, seagrass beds. And right close to these seagrass beds, we have mangrove forests. So to Abu Dhabi, conservation was the first step when it comes to nature-based solution. And we started to work on restoration. And that's where we look at degraded areas and start restoring them to their natural or try to restore nature in these areas. And that's where we moved into mangrove and coral restoration. I think you've heard enough about mangroves, so I'll talk a little about corals. With our coral nursery, we are looking at a nature-based solution in creating or adapting the most resilient corals found in our waters to combat coral bleaching that is happening due to climate change in Abu Dhabi. And this is key because the world is looking at Abu Dhabi and the UAE and the Arabian Gulf as a living lab for climate change. Whatever we are facing here today is what the world will face in a few years, especially when it comes to the marine habitats, including corals. And our corals have been showing quite good signs of resilience when it comes to the effects of high temperatures and the fluctuations of temperatures. So I think Abu Dhabi, just to sum it up, I think Abu Dhabi has done a lot when it comes to nature-based solutions, especially focusing on key habitats that are vulnerable when it comes to climate change, and investing in these habitats and creating nature-based solutions around them, but also focusing on the conservation, because mimicking nature is not easy. And conservation is easier than mimicking nature. Thank you.
That was Metha's mic drop. Yeah, we have time.
I just wanted to comment on Maitha's point. I think it has been great to see the efforts that EED has been doing. And also, we are very glad to see also EED using science to support the management and decision-making processes. I'm also just, I don't want to forget that we are working in this project where we are doing some pilot initiatives in nature-based solutions that for cultivation of salt-tolerant plants that we can use for food security. I think those plants have a history in the UAE where that have been used for feeding camels, but also in some plates with the local plates. So I think we are very glad that we are also experimenting those salt-tolerant plants, because I think building on Simon and on your comments, those are salt marshes that are very important, that we know that they can contribute again to the carbon sequestration, carbon storage, but at the same time they can provide other services, like for example, for food security. I think we are very happy to start this pilot study and see where we go. Exciting.
That's really very important. A very important note that working in collaboration with NGOs, businesses, and other entities is key when it comes to nature-based solutions. You need everyone's buy-in, and we're lucky and glad that we have this in Abu Dhabi, and we're always happy to work with Emirates Nature and WWF. And a great example of the contributions of the private sector is HSBC is supporting us in this project that Dr. Danny is talking about. So it's not only a holistic approach in the restoration, it's a holistic approach from a management perspective, because we need everyone's buy-in in this.
And maybe just to add to that as well, I think it's not just an holistic approach, it's a long-term approach as well. And I think that's particularly where the kind of investment sector can come in as well, because often they have a long-term thinking in terms of their own investments. The insurance sector obviously thinks very, very long-term because it wants to avoid risk and it wants its investment to be good over the long term. So I think we can take advantage of a lot of the skills that they have in the private sector and use it in a nature-based context. Thank you.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't want to forget the local community. I just want to make sure that we mention them, because I think this is the most important. Local community need to be involved in all this process. So that's why the nature-based solutions should be done, or should include them as leaders. Like in this case, for the salt-tolerant plants, we are looking for local entrepreneurs that they want to scale up this nature-based solution, as well as the farmers that they raise their hand and say, "Hey, I'm here, count with me. Let's gonna work on this and let's move this business." So yeah. Sorry.
Thank you very much. We hope that after today's discussion, you'll be inspired and you'll try to join the movement towards a more sustainable and harmonious relationship with nature and nature-based solutions. Thank you so much.